Good evening and welcome back to another session, the A4Q Testing Summit Edition 2025. Well, I'm a lucky girl and here with Jean-François Riverin. Hello, Jean-François. Jean-François, I know that you've got a very interesting topic here with a very interesting theme. I'm going to get off stage very, very quickly and let you introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit more about you. I was going to say that you're productivity and delivery advisor, strategic software coach, co-founder of Zencelia, an active member of the Canadian Software Testing Board, and also a contributor to the IS degree working groups. But you can tell everybody that in a moment. Can I just say, people, if you have questions, please do put them in the comments box. And even if we cannot answer them in this session, then we will try to get back to you. And also just to remind you that if you go to Jean-François' profile on the A4Q website, the Summit website, then you'll be able to vote for him as best presentation, best speaker. And I'll remind you again at the end of the session. I'm going to go away, Jean-François, and leave you to it because I found the title of your presentation intriguing. I'm sure many people have. So over to you.
Thank you, Debbie. Hello, everyone. I'm still Jean-François, as Debbie said, so it's perfect. And the co-founder of Zencelia. If you want to talk with me and see what I'm doing in real life, there's a QR code there that you can hit and see what the services I'm doing with my company, because Zencelia is a small company. As Debbie said, it's kind of a Canadian company, so I'm French-Canadian, as you can hear. And I'll try to introduce you today to 30 minutes and invite you to do something kind of unusual with that. My background is about software engineering, and now I'm calling that bioengineering because I have also another interest. I take trainings and at university about health informatics. So I will combine those because I try to figure out things that are not quite well right now. So just for a moment, bear with me. Suspend what you think you know about software engineering. If software just a machine, just code we assemble, or is it something more, maybe like a living system that we can cultivate? Today, I want to introduce you to a new kind of role. It's not software engineer, it's not gardening, it's something different. It's something we build, but it's something that matters. But professionals who understand how systems grow, adapt, and evolve. Who can do that is a software bioengineer. A professional who combines technical rigor with the mindset of someone who understands how systems grow, adapt, and evolve. From this shift in mindset emerge new practices, new ways of thinking, even new ways of measuring quality, measuring software quality, especially in a world where our systems are too complex to control in traditional ways. So let's explore, and with me, what it means to stop just building and begin growing it. A little bit of story on how I come up with this idea that I present you today, and you will comment on how good or bad it is as an idea. The seed idea was that I was observing different behavior. I'm discovering about gardening analogies that I hear on YouTube, online, but it was not satisfying to me. We're still engineers, I believe that. But I think we are more. I noticed that our software shipped, then the real work began, not just creating it. We're fixing things, we're retuning, releasing again, relearning, not just maintaining, we're adapting. So I tried to combine the engineering part of the organic way, and I came with this analogy combining engineering, software engineering, and software gardening and software and biology. So it becomes bioengineering, which exists, but exists in something else than software, but maybe it's the same. So maybe it's time to stop asking how we control the system and start learning how to cultivate a system. Maybe it's time to become software bioengineer. Now you can hear the sound of life, the beginning of life on Earth with code. And we ask ourselves how it started. And if you reflect about that, it's a simple code, the DNA. The code created a first single cell floating in the water, can figure out, adapt, divide, responded to the environment of the time, learning, kind of, adapting, dividing. Over time, this simple organism became more complex. Multicellular life, nervous systems, brains, and eventually human beings. Life evolves because the environment demands it, not because it was coded first. It started from code, but then it evolves. Complexity emerged because it was needed. Survival depended on not on control, but on adaptation, right? As engineers, software engineers, we too evolve. And maybe now the world is demanding a new evolution, or at least understanding it, not in the tool that we're using, which is great that new tools are there, but maybe in the mindset on how we are using our tools. Just with the AI that we have now, it's kind of a new tool set that we will have, and it will change things. So let's look at software and see if it's on a similar path than life. Just like software didn't stay simple, just like life, software didn't stay simple. It started as isolated code. We created code to do some function, easy at first. Then it came layered architectures. Systems are talking to each other, not like a piece of furniture that two tables or aside one another cannot talk to each other, but in software, we create connection, like in our mind. Then we distribute computing, cloud native design, systems that monitor themselves, heal themselves, learn. Software is no longer just a machine that executing code. It communicates, it adapts. It's shaped by feedback. It's influenced by the environment where it is in. Like life as a DNA, and software we have code, and we have created our own code, Python, Java, C. But now we must ask, are we still just building functionalities? Or are we, without realizing it, cultivating something that behaves like it's alive? If software evolves, maybe we, the engineers, must evolve too. So let me show something that really changed my mind and how I think about software systems. It's called the Kinevin framework by Dave Snowden. Kinevin framework sounds fancy, but the idea is simple. Let's imagine a 2x2 grid. So 4 types of problems that can be solved, started from this order. To solve problems first, if you go on the bottom right, it's where the world is simple. Down there, it's obvious, it's clear. That is the land of clear rules. Cause and effect apply there. You just follow the recipe. Like resetting your password, putting a key on a lock and unlocking it, or throwing an egg. It's the world of best practices that we can use, and you follow the recipe. It's not what is, it's the most common thing, and it's everyone can do it. But if you go on the top right corner, now it starts to be complicated. These are hard problems that engineers try to solve. Experts can solve them with the right solution, the right mindset, the right thinking, the right tools. It's like fixing an engine, building things. There's a right answer. Often it seems like complicated things. It's a multiple task, a lot of tasks, simple tasks put together to complicate things. So, like building a bridge, building an airplane, or just a tower like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the highest tower in the world. There is a solution that we can apply. On the left side, it's where the top left, it's the complex world. Now we're not in engineering anymore. We're more in biology, complex in behaviors, ecosystems. Maybe software is there. We need to see. There's no single right answer at this point. You have to probe, test, and adapt. You need, you go to the doctor, you say, oh, I have an headache, give you pills, and then come back 2 weeks later, see if the headache is gone, or maybe there's something else. We need to diagnose, to probe, to test, and to find a solution if we don't have the right answer. It sounds familiar, right? It's the world of the real life that is complex there. And there's a fourth quadrant where the things are chaotic. Then there's chaos, total crisis, no patterns whatsoever. We just have to act fast. Like when you're in production, a site goes down and users are screaming. Then what happens? There's a fire. Then we have to stabilize. So it means that we have to act first and then take actions to prevent it. The thing that can happen is that when you're in a chaotic environment, it's often created by something that we didn't, like in software, assess right. So if we think that things are simple, it's really easy to go into chaotic because we think that things are simple and they are not. Then you're going into a chaotic. That's the part that we want to avoid. Chaotic is not known. We don't have the right answer. We act and then we analyze and then we respond. So we try to sense things when it's obvious, when it's complicated as well. When it's complicated, I will just use the given framework here to show you that when we sense things, we don't assume things. We observe and then we analyze. It's what they do on the complicated side when you are engineers. You observe the situation, you match it to a known pattern, kind of good practices that we have, and you apply the right solution to it. You assume the right answer exists and you are there to find it, to discover it by analysis, and you respond to it, which is completely different when you go on the complex side. It's unpredictable. So we go from predictable area to unpredictable. Unpredictable means you cannot know the right answer upfront. You discover it after fact. What to do in those environments? Use emergent practices, like in DevOps, like in Agile. Though you do something small, like we have been told, you probe. Then you see what happens, you sense, and you adjust accordingly. To monitor the results, you plan your knowledge. You plan on knowledge and not on guesswork. So you monitor the result and you know what to do then. And there's the trap. We often see software like it's complicated. Most of the time, people think that is an engineering task, and there's a solution, a best solution, hiring the best expert to do it. But in reality, most of what we can observe is that it's complex. And that changes everything about how we build and test software. And that means we need emergent practices to do it. If software we write is not just something we can predict, plan, and build anymore, but it's something that we have to cultivate. We think about the traditional software about the traditional software was about construction. It's carefully planned development, structured buildings, blueprints, the best plan in place, and we try to monitor about those plans. This is still important, don't get me wrong. We need solid foundations. Construction is our dev or planning or architecture. But it's half the story, I believe, today. as soon as we launch, our software is born into a living environment that can be chaotic, a world of APIs, services, infrastructure, users that are constantly shifting and using our software in different ways that we can have predicted. It's not isolated as well. It's not like an embryo in a lab. It's alive, connected, reacting. And that is where cultivation begins. Nurturing it, adapting it, helping it thrive, whatever the change are. In bioengineering, we construct the foundation like an engineer, but we cultivate the life. This is the future of software, living system, not frozen blueprints. What if software development were less about a rigid construction and more about cultivating living, evolving ecosystem? So if we think about that and we think that is maybe something that's happening, why not looking at what a real bioengineer do? They work with life. So it's not software, it's life. They read, they write, they edit a code of living organism, right? Like a plant or like an insect or like a living thing. They use the DNA, they use the proteins, they use the code of living organism to create new functions. They enhance its resilience, maybe, in our fields with crop, and influence how biological systems grow and respond. They don't expect full control. Instead, they guide evolution, accepting uncertainty and collaborate with complexity. So what defines them? What is their mindset? They design for adaptation. Living systems co-evolve with their environment. So we need to be adaptable. That's one of the lessons. They write and edit the code of life. Genetic code is modified, the structure, and from those structures, the behavior change, or they build the resistance to some illness. They use feedback and iteration. They rely on that, and they learn through observation and iteration to build best way to have a better functions in the future. So they learn of it. They work with uncertainty. They operate without full predictability. They accept they don't know things, and they will learn it along the way. They guide the ecosystem. They focus on resilience, not rigid control. So it doesn't control, but they grow over time. The mindset here is part engineering, part biologist, part of system thinker. It is, in my mind, exactly what we need for software to become adaptive and alive. So if software really being complex, as we saw, and if you assess that, maybe you are becoming software bioengineers. What it means in our operation, and if we take this idea seriously, that software evolves like a living system, like a complex living system, then as a software bioengineer, we don't just need new metaphor, we need new practices, right? So let me go with you to see what those practices can look like. Adaptability, like the chameleon, we stop designing for a single outcome and instead we build for change. System must flex, not break. The code must evolve, not resist evolution. So we should not resist evolution. We should just figure out how to create adaptability. Then in second, it's safe to fail. In a complex world, we cannot be certain. That's what we saw. But we can create experiments that teach us fast without crashing everything. So we used to aim for, in the past, for fail-safe system, preventing at all cost failing and never breaks. But when it's unpredictable, you cannot predict what's going to happen. This is the part of it's unrealistic. It's part of the game in a complex environment. So, and instead, then we have to aim for safe to fail system that expect the unexpected and handle failure with grace, not avoiding failure, but learning from it early when the cost is still low and doesn't create a big problem. Then the feedback loop, or feedback loops if we want more than one. Living systems survive by listening to their environment, and so most software should be. Feedback is no longer an afterthought in a software development, should be the fuel of how to grow. And it looks like what we learned on holistic approach by Lisa Crispin and Janet Gregory. So the holistic approach is based on all those feedbacks that can enter into our system to make it more adaptable and resilient. And then we can monitor fitness, or we should. We cannot cultivate what we can observe, so we need to know what's going on. We have to shift from did it deploy to is it healthy? Is it still thriving? And then is the fitness functions. Finally, these are how we measure vitality of a software, not just velocity of the development team. Is our system fit for its environment? So not just a question of today, are we shipping? And all those practices together shift us from builders of static code that will not evolve to an adaptive system. If the system is truly complex, not just complicated, then maybe we're not traditional engineers, but maybe we're people who guide mutation and build for it. We observe, we build for variation, and we listen that the system tells us. The DevOps mindset, we shape accordingly, and so in other words, we are closer to a bioengineer than an engineer. So if we think that software is just complicated, we build it like we're solving a puzzle. Once it fits, it's done. But if it's complex, if it will change tomorrow, then what we build today must prepare us to bend instead of breaking. We have the ability to become the goal. The adaptability becomes the goal, not perfection. So what we can do, since system evolves, we don't aim for done. We're aiming for ready to change. And what change in our practices, if we really embrace that, we are looking at the Agile Manifesto from it. It says in principle number 2, embrace for change. And if we're testing, what it means is then we need adaptability. What are the risks? Can we use exploratory testing more than something that it's fixed? Can we use example mapping? And on DevOps, we have pipelines. We enable fast deliveries on CI/CD delivery pipelines. So if you use that, then we can go and probe earlier. And we design safe to fail experiments. In engineering mode, failure is not unacceptable. So if we're on complicated side, then we plan endlessly to prevent failure. Because some things in our environment are complicated. Some problems are complicated, not complex. So when we create a plan, when we create a bridge or we want to create a plane, we don't want the plane to crash or creating the plane in flight. We want to plan for it and make sure that nothing will collapse. The bridge will not collapse, the plane will not crash. In a complicated world, that makes sense. That's a right answer, and experts can solve the problem. But in a complex world, things are different. We don't try to get it right the first time. Instead, we create systems that tell you when you're wrong without blowing up in production. That's the idea being safe to fail. It's not a fallback, it's a strategy, and that's already have companies using it. And they would use a chaos testing in production to create problems and see if they're resilient enough. What we do when we're a software bioengineer in that, we use small experiments to learn before scaling. We accept the failure as an input, but not the failure as a design. We treat We treat the failure as an information. How we can use that, you see the canary release, feature flags, chaos engineering, they are all using that. And in testing, we're talking about shift left, sandbox testing in environment. In Agile, we have iterative increments that help us doing that most frequently and inspect, adapt, see what is going on with the business. And third, we have the feedback as a fuel. So we monitor. Traditionally in engineering, we build, we test, and we end it off. But in complex system, the system evolves while we're still holding the wrench. So without feedback, system is driven to failure. Living systems are living software. We must listen constantly at what's going on and be able to react on the information we're receiving. A software bioengineer should shorten the time between an action and how we learn, so go in production often. We have to prioritize what we can observe instead of deciding that we have the right answer without looking for it. So that's why we have observability in DevOps, incident monitoring, alerting, and in Agile, all standards are daily. We meet frequently. We use retrospectives to learn and adapt. We have continuous testing, holistic testing, and Tres Amigos, and example mappings as well that we can use. Feedback is not just a phase. It's the oxygen that we need to breathe. The system needs to have from day one. It talks to business owner, to business analyst, that they need to take that into account. That is not just a contract that we sign to a development team anymore, but it's something that is living like a gardening. You need to go and see what's going on in your garden and react according to the situation. If software is just so complicated, we test it once and declare it done. But if it's alive, we must watch it grow, change, and if something gets sick, we have to react. You don't just release and forget. You observe, not just for bugs, but for the signals of life, the stress the system has. And it's about adaptation. It's about all the quality attributes that we should monitor. If we're a software bioengineer, I don't just test at release. I observe during operation. This is the world of shift right. Right. We monitor for emergent behavior. We observe how the system responds, degrades, and recovers. The best practices are we use the telemetry, the metrics that we have, SLI and SLOs in DevOps to have the information about the system indicators, even using the application performance monitoring tools that we put in DevOps, health checks, deliverable pipelines, all along with the development systems. The production monitoring is important, and the real users are important to monitor as well, how your system behaves with them and behaves with other systems. Any change in the environment can impact your system. In classic engineering, success is measured by delivery. Did it work? Did it ship? But in a complex world, delivery is only the beginning. The real question becomes, is it healthy? A release is just a moment in the system life. But system health is a life condition, and that's what we measure now. We define success in bioengineering in terms of ongoing health of the system, not just deliverable. We use custom, domain-specific metrics that we have to measure ourselves. We test for non-functional testing. All the quality attributes there are important. Is the system maintainable enough, usable, secure, performant? SLAs are important in metrics too, and the definition of done includes the quality and performance criteria from day one. And if we think about that, where is your software? The software is really is today. Is it something that is in complicated domain with analytical approach can solve the problem with good practices? Or are we using more intuitive approach, emergent practices to solve a complex problem? Are you still building like this really concrete? or might be you need more of the emergent practices for a complex system. I began with the question, what if software wasn't something we just build, but something we cultivate? What if our role as a software professional wasn't just about delivering and correctness, but about helping something grow with care, intention, awareness of an environment that maybe it's living? This is not just about throwing out engineering. I don't want to do that. It's about expanding engineering, software engineering as software bioengineering. We add to it. We add adaptation to planning. It's like the Agile Manifesto. We thrive in a complex system by adaptation more than planning, stewardship more to delivery. And that's what a software bioengineering should do. So the question I leave with you, where in your work could you begin to cultivate instead of controlling? Where could you introduce care instead of just introducing code? Where could you embrace feedback instead of chasing completion? Not across the whole system, not overnight, just somewhere, because maybe, just maybe, bear with me, this is how software wants to grow now. And maybe it's time that we grow with it and we change our practices of wonderful planning, but doesn't make sense, to something that thriving and change and adapt. And before we move into questions, I want to say just one thing. You're welcome to ask me anything, and there's a scan of a QR code that can go to my LinkedIn. I would love to hear about your reflection about that. Where do you think we are today? Is it truly something that we need to know in a world where those AI makes me wonder if the code can change, if the system is complex, how can we adapt to make sure we test those kind of softwares? So this is something that we can fully predict. How can we react? And if you have ideas for me, since I just throw this idea out to you, please feel free to come and ask questions. I will really be happy to discuss with you about this really interesting subjects on how we can evolve in software. So in this world, we're not just engineer with the right answer. Maybe we're doctors, diagnosis, adjusting, checking it again. And in 2 weeks, like medicine, we don't give the answer once, and we don't have the right answer. We observe, we adjust, we learn. In healthcare, we now wear patches and watch and monitor, use in real time because the system is too dynamic for a single moment of evaluation. Maybe our role is in software is the same than doctors, not always as an engineer, where we started. So does relate or resonate with you? Where do you think your system is and your mindset stand today? So thank you to have listened to me about that. And I leave the questions to you.
Jean-François, thank you very much for that. Lots of food for thought, as we say, and it'd be really interesting to see if people do contact you, because I'm sure that will resonate with many people who are watching. I know we've got some questions, so let's pop into those. This metaphor of living systems is great, it is, but how do we actually apply it in a large legacy enterprise system with rigid governance?
That's a question that it's really real, and it's a good one to hear, and I hear that really often. We don't need really to transform the whole system. As I mentioned at the end, it's not transforming overnight. When the enterprises are rigid, there's some places where some parts you can change and you can adapt. They are more dynamic than others. They are more fragile. They are more like living things. So if we start there, we introduce what I presented as a safe to fail experiments, and we observe that. we test in small increments as well. So it's where we can just try to respond to rigid government by using where we can act, and over time it may change, it may evolve. It's presenting that.
Thank you. People go on to the next question. I'll just quickly say to people, because I think there's some content in there which people will enjoy looking at again. So A4Q will actually have the videos of this in their stream, but also on their YouTube channel. So if people do want to go in and hear what you've had to say again, I think that's a good place for them to go. Looking for the back office here. Yep, next question. If software is a living system, how do we write code that's resilient to change?
That's really important, because this question is really right about the code is sometimes written in a way that is rigid and you cannot make it evolve. It's like a spaghetti code. So the code base needs to be prepared by having services that can evolve, the mindset that we optimize them. So build with flexibility, like the architecture should be microservices. You should not be really strongly coupled, like loosely coupled in your architecture. And the code should be, as the quality attributes said, maintainable and loosely coupled. So you can do some adaptation by just changing one thing. If you cannot change one thing and you deliver the whole system, it's kind of getting against what software really is, something that is easy to adapt and to change. We're using that. We're using that right now in the fields. Right, we have a lot of updates on our phones, on our cars, and you can adapt and change your software by learning on your environment.
Thank you. Another question? How do I convince leadership or stakeholders to embrace this mindset when they're still asking for roadmaps, deadlines, and KPIs?
I know they are. That is the part of the tension that we have. This part of the, as I said to the clients when I'm going on, it's your base. It's your working ground. So instead of saying we don't know, we can say how can we measure. I think this by using metrics that will be really important. So I mentioned about system health, risk exposure, feedback loops, the speed that we have. So there's metrics that you can put in place to understand what's going on and to act accordingly. So if they ask about KPIs, maybe those KPIs, SLAs and SLOs, release lead time in DevOps that we have, or and we connect them to the adaptability. So now it's not just an output, it's something that we can learn from it, and then you can change the mindset over time.
Thank you. I think time for one more question. Aren't we just describing Agile or DevOps with fancier words? What's really new here, Jean-François?
Yeah, I really thought about that when I created this presentation. Was kind of, it's DevOps that we already have. It's Agile, and it's right. It's both of them there. But what we're proposing is the change in the switch in mindset. So it's a way of thinking. It's not just using methodology over another one. It's not what is best and what is not. It's just a mindset of how we're going, what we're doing, if we're seeing things as complex, more like living things than something fixed. Though then we will change how we plan, with the expectation we have. And one message that I had for business owners, POs, business analysts, is that you have to take care of your software, not just from the start with the information on requirements, but through the end, when the system stops living. And when it's still in production, you still need to be involved and taking care of it, because it will change. It will evolve.
Thank you, Jean-François. I think we've come to the end of time, so thank you so very much for that. A couple of reminders. Just to reiterate what you're saying, if people would like to reach out to you, then they can watch the video again and scan the QR code. So ask your questions, he's offered. Also, just to say that please do go to Jean-François' bio on the A4Q Testing Summit website and consider best presentation, best speaker. And stay tuned for the next session in the A4Q Testing Summit edition 2025. Thank you all. Thank you, Jean-François. I love it. Oh,